Auburn basketball is still number one, and they have a chance to win the most quad one games ever. Welcome on in, War Core family. I'm your host, Mike G, and thank you so much for giving us a listen on this fine day. Joining me, as he always does, is my good friend Kyle Rush from the Barn, talking a little Auburn basketball today. Kyle, exciting week of sports. Auburn this past weekend went on the road and beat Georgia. They've got Tennessee on the way. They've done really good in a tough SEC slate so far. How tough has it been? They've played 11 quad one games. They're 10-1 in quad one games so far this season. They have a chance to play like 20 quad one games before the end of the regular season. Absolutely ridiculous. Nobody is doing what Auburn basketball is doing right now. Before we start talking about what they have a chance to do historically, how did you feel about that win on the road versus Georgia?
Look, obviously it was a lot closer than I would have liked. And I felt like there were times where Auburn could have put the game away and then let Georgia kind of creep back in, especially down the last couple of minutes. But you know what? That happens on the road. And you know what else that happens? It also happens when your starting big guy is out, and then your second best big guy gets a quad bruise, like a thigh bruise, a bad Charlie horse, gets hit with a knee, and he's out for like almost the whole second half. And then you don't have the size to compete inside, and that's what Georgia kept doing, feeding it inside over and over again. But you found a way to hold them off, and win that game. You had Chad Baker, Mazzara hitting threes late that were daggers. You had Tahad Pettiford going off when he had to. This team, man, when one group is down, the other one picks it up. When one guard is having a bad game, Denver was having a tough game offensively. So Tahad just scores 24 points, and then Denver just plays lockdown defense. Like when the scales go one way, the scales go the other. The other side goes the other way. So this team is fun to watch, and they're doing it against some of the best competition there can be. I mean, 10-1 in quad one games, and it's not even February yet. That is absurd.
A lot of that work was done in the non-con, I might add. This was a really tough non-conference slate. So what you're seeing is the real Auburn basketball. A lot of times you get fool's gold in the non-conference games, Kyle, and then you get the conference play and it all falls apart. Well, Auburn was actually tested in the non-conference, taking on Houston, taking on Iowa State, taking on Duke, their only loss of the season at Cameron Indoor. But look, this is a tough SEC. And which is why they have so many quad one opportunities still left on the schedule. I do want to talk about my good friends over at SEC Unfiltered. We do a segment where they do their own power rankings. Our guy Dave Shoemate joined the show to talk about his power rankings. He released these yesterday. And look, he's got Auburn firmly at number one. I will state for the record, Dave is a Bammer. And I had issues.
Context matters.
Number two.
Context matters.
I had issues with Alabama at number two. However, Florida lost as well too. So they both lost after I said I had issues with them. Alabama lost to Ole Miss, and then Florida went and dropped their game as well. But this is still a really tough SEC. Tennessee was a former number one. Alabama has been hanging around in and around the top five all season. Ole Miss has catapulted up with that win against Alabama. So the Mississippi schools are tough. If you're Auburn, you 20-piece Mississippi State already.
Correct.
Texas A&M started the season as a top 25 team, continued to work their way up the rankings. I feel like the bottom of these rankings are accurate. Not in my life did I think John Calipari and Arkansas would be down there as one of the worst teams in the SEC. But that underscores how tough the conference has been. If you're Auburn, you have a chance to make history here and win the most quad one games ever. So we did our research, as we do here at the Auburn Express, and it looks like the most quad one games we've seen after it's all said and done is 16 by Kansas in the 2022-2023 season. If you're Auburn, You see Auburn breaking that quad one record this year. I think if they get Janai back, it's totally possible.
Oh, for sure. You mentioned earlier that Auburn did a lot of their damage on the quad one wins out of conference, but Auburn's played 5 conference games so far. 4 of them were quad one wins. So
Mm.
they've already hit the ground running in conference with quad one wins, and they have a chance to win. There's a the way the math works out. There's a chance to win. I mean, there's going to be 10 to 11 more opportunities, depending on how the teams shake out of quad one opportunities. Like that's insane to think about, that Auburn could have a chance to win close to 20 quad one games in the regular season. That Kansas, I'm pretty sure that still probably counted maybe some tournament teams, maybe some NCAA tournament teams. Like again, a regular season opportunity that Auburn's had. Like you have a chance to go on one of the more historically difficult schedules, and you have the best record. You have the best record in the SEC, the best quad record or one record in the country by a mile, and you got multiple more opportunities to show everybody your stuff. So, golly, this team could be one for the history books. I mean, this is like legendary type stuff that you could be talking about.
Yeah, doing it in a stretch without Janai Broom as well, too. The last time Auburn was number one, Kyle, they almost immediately fell off that ranking. So there were some questions when Janai went down, and how much respect, are these rankings? Our guy Ken Palm, the AP voters, were they going to give Auburn this year? I think that they've earned a respect they haven't had in the past with what they accomplished in the non-conference. Now they're in the conference play, and they're still doing it. I talked with my good friend Doug Amos over on ESPN Radio, and he asked me the question, how good is this Auburn team without Janai Broom? And I said it simply. I said, look, man, you're not the best team in the country without the best player in the country, but I still think that they have a chance to win every game even without him. That's how deep this team is. Certainly, they're proving that right now. For our listeners on pod, I do want to note Auburn 10-1 in quad one games. No other team currently ranked in the top 10 of the net has more than 5 quad one wins. Auburn has doubled up most of those teams there in terms of quad one wins. So it's been a pretty remarkable stretch, I think, for Auburn basketball and Bruce Pearl. Can they keep it going? That's going to be the question here. When you look at it, Iowa State 5-2 in quad one games, you own a win over them, right? You play Tennessee right now 5-2 in quad one games. You could own a win over them after Saturday. Houston 2-3, only 2-3, and they're number 3 in the net in quad one games. And you own a win over them. Duke 4-2 in quad one games. That was your only loss of the season. Man, this is crazy. And at number 10, Purdue, who you waxed by double digits, 4-4 in quad one games. I think this team is tried and tested.
I mean, I don't even know. I don't know if what the criteria is if they're not. Like, what is the criteria of a battle tested team? What is the criteria of becoming the number one unanimous team, resume wise? Like, what is it if this isn't it? Because it's really incredible the more you talk about it. Now, you still got some unfinished business to handle, and that's one thing that I get a vibe from this team is that they understand that it's the season's far from over. You got a lot. There's still a lot of work left to be done, and it's not just let's celebrate now because we're number one. They seem like this team just seems like it's at a much higher level of maturity, and they just seem like they're locked in. They're locked in and ready to go, and they feed off each other. And I'm looking forward to this game Saturday because that crowd's going to explode, and it is going to be a big game. And then on top of it, you got the huge recruiting weekend as well. So just a lot of fun stuff, man. This team could do some really, really special things.
Agreed. Look, if you're going to be stressed out about the game on Saturday, I know I will be. Visit our friends at the Rogue Shop, rogueshop.com. Use code REPORT to get 15% off that Rogue Shop order. Pain, sleep, stress, and especially anxiety on Saturday. The Rogue Shop has
quad one games.
Ease your quad one stress with the Rogue Shop. Again, 15% off that Rogue Shop order. Use code rapport. And if you got the munchies after that, visit our friends at Los Amigos Mexican Restaurant. You can find them at 1220 Fox Run Ave, Suite 200 in Opelika, Alabama. If you're in the Auburn Opelika area and you're looking for some sweet eats, Los Amigos has you covered. Great partners in the community, clean place to eat, and a great place to watch the game. TVs everywhere. Los Amigos Mexican Restaurant. Kyle, let's jump back into the discussion about Auburn basketball. Expectations are sky high. You got Tennessee on Saturday. The luster has come off that game a little bit as Tennessee has faltered here in the last week or so. But this is still a solid quad one opportunity for Auburn. If you lose this one, I think they should still be sitting on that number one perch because their resume still, whose resume stacks up to them even with a loss on Saturday.
Right. I agree, but I think Duke will definitely jump. If Duke wins and Auburn loses, they'll definitely jump. But I'm gonna not try to focus so much on just that number one ranking. Like I want to beat Tennessee. I know this game means a lot to Bruce Pearl in general, the whole Tennessee connection, and Auburn always seems to play one of their better games when they play Tennessee. So I just the ticket prices for this thing are incredible,
unreal,
are outrageous. You're talking thousands of dollars for one basketball ticket for 2 hours and 20 minutes or whatever. It's just it's insane, and it's incredible to see how far this basketball program's come. And this is sort of like one of those crescendo games where everything's kind of built towards. You had this one circled at the beginning of the year that you're going to build towards this game, and obviously Alabama. Those are going to be big too, and you got that big one at the end of the year. But as far as like a midpoint of the season where you got something circled, it seems like this one's at the top of the list. And man, oh man, I can't wait. This week off stuff, I love it because it helps us get rested.
To get healthy. Yep.
But golly, man, it's never going to get here. It feels like it's never going to get here. It snowed today, makes it feel the days feel even longer. So it's like, man, get here Saturday because I'm ready to go.
As you referenced, the ticket prices kind of tell the story here. I landed 2 tickets for my mom and my girlfriend to that game on Saturday, and I can tell you, God blessed me with 2 kidneys, and I had to sell one to get them tickets to this game. But look, if you're Auburn, it's going to be the marquee matchup of the weekend. I feel like Auburn, Alabama is going to be what we thought this Auburn Tennessee game was going to be now. It's shifted.
It's shifting. Look, I agree.
The Tide, disappointing loss maybe to Ole Miss, but before we started recording this, I just watched them shoot lights out against a really good Vanderbilt team that never really went away, and Alabama won that game by like 20. So it's I think that if you're Auburn, you've got to have that one circled there. You've got that game circled, and you've got to split that series, I think, if you want to take that regular season crown, because I don't think Alabama's going away here.
No, I mean, they've scored over 100 points 2 games in a row against Kentucky and against Vanderbilt. So like they can score
with anybody.
They can score with anybody. Now, I don't think they've played a defensive team quite as good as Auburn. But still, I'm with you. Tennessee has typically been the class of the league. And now it seems like Auburn and Alabama are kind of jockeying for that. So where that game would have been probably the marquee matchup, I'm with you. The two early losses from Tennessee take a little bit of the luster off of it. They still are very highly ranked in the net. So that's still a big game. But that in those two battles you have with Alabama, you're talking about must-see TV, and I think you're not just locally, you're talking national must-see TV.
Yeah, SEC supremacy is on the line in that one. You play them twice in this season, so you get one at home, one away. I feel like if you're Auburn, you always want to win at home, but going in to Coleman Coliseum or whatever the hell that is, you want to get the win. You want to get the win in their house. and have that quad one firmly in your grasp, because your last game of the season is against Alabama. It's great to end on a high note, Kyle. It's always great
Yeah.
to end on a high note, but your season is decided by that last game. And I think if you score the win in Coleman, you kind of take the wind out of Alabama's sails in terms of the tiebreaker, should it come down to it, to take the SEC regular season crown. I don't know if I give a damn what happens in that SEC tournament the way that this season is going right now.
No.
I think go into the NCAA tournament healthy and a number one seed. You know, if you win the SEC crown this year, if you're Auburn, hear me out. There's nothing you're going to do in the SEC tournament that's going to improve or worsen your standing, I think, this year.
Well, the only thing is if the SEC continues to be sort of like a meat grinder, and you win the conference at like 14-4. You know what I mean? Like, then does that hurt does that maybe, or even 13-5? I don't think it'll get that. I think it'll be 14-4, 15-3, something like that. But if it's 14-4 and you got some of those losses, I think I think Auburn really, the number one overall seed, puts you in the driver's seat, because that'll put you in the South region. You'll be in Atlanta for a majority of your tournament games, and you're talking about just the stars aligning. So that's the only other reason why I would think if you do win the league at 14-4, or you come in second at 13-5 or whatever, do you want to make a run at the tournament so you can justify being the number one overall seed? That's the only benefit, because I think, man, you're going to have Duke too that you got to fight out for that number one overall seed to get that South region bid. So that's one reason I can look at why the postseason tournament, the conference tournament, could have a little bit more importance than a general. But I'm with you. If you can win the league this year, who cares? If you win the league, we'll take what we get and we'll roll with it in the tournament.
Yeah, agreed. Look, I don't want to go out to Spokane. You said something that's very important. As someone who made the trip to Spokane last year, I will relish Auburn being in Atlanta for at least some of this NCAA tournament, which they certainly will be in. But how high can they climb? I think the sky's the limit. It may be all-time good when we start talking about those quad one wins at the end of the season. Great conversation, Kyle. Appreciate you joining me. Before we get out of here, tell people where they can find you.
Absolutely. Sign up for the barn, auburn.com. You can get a $25 off for your 2025 annual membership. So knock $25 off your annual membership. Jump in the fun, jump in the conversation. We're getting fired up for the Junior Day weekend that we got going on this weekend. It's going to be a lot of fun, a lot of action, and you can be a part of it, be a part of the community as well. And then obviously you can catch me anywhere you get a podcast, the Top Button Podcast.
That's it for another great edition of the Auburn Express, powered by the War Report. We appreciate you guys joining us. Join us tomorrow for more great Auburn sports talk. If you want more content like this, please hit like and subscribe. We are the War Report on every social media platform. TW Report on TikTok. Signing off, and as always, War Eagle.